For years, the world saw Hamas as a shadowy militant group fighting from the rubble of Gaza. But what they are building now has stunned even their greatest enemies. Beneath the chaos and blockades, massive projects are rising. Tunnels that look like underground cities, billion-dollar border gates, and even glittering resorts. Are these signs of power, desperation, or something far more dangerous? What Hamaas is constructing now could change everything we thought we knew. Hamas, then versus now. Hamas has always been a name that sparks fear, debate, and mystery. Born in the late 1980s during the First Intifada, Hamas began as a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. Its main goal was to resist Israeli occupation and establish an Islamic state in the historic land of Palestine. Over time, it grew from a small resistance group into a powerful political and military force that eventually took control of the Gaza Strip in 2007. Since then, it has ruled Gaza, controlling not only its politics, but also its economy and security. In its early years, Hamas was known mostly for its armed struggle. The organization focused on building rockets, training fighters, and digging tunnels to infiltrate Israeli territory. These tunnels were used for smuggling weapons, moving fighters, and launching surprise attacks. During this period, Gaza's infrastructure remained fragile. Electricity cuts, water shortages, and poverty were part of daily life. Hamas's focus was survival and resistance, not development or governance. For years, its message was simple: fight, endure, and wait for liberation. But the situation began to change. After taking full control of Gaza, Hamas faced a new challenge. It was no longer just a resistance movement. It had to run a government. People demanded jobs, houses, and schools, not just slogans of defiance. Under constant blockade and international isolation, Hamas began to realize that survival now meant more than firing rockets. It needed to show power through construction, not just destruction. Slowly, the movement started investing in large infrastructure and civil projects. In recent years, Hamas has surprised the world by launching what many call mega projects. These projects serve many purposes. They strengthen Hamas's control, improve its image among civilians, and provide income through taxes and trade. For a group once seen only as a militant organization, this shift has been dramatic. It now aims to show that it can govern, build, and sustain its own territory even under pressure. So why would Hamas invest billions into such projects instead of basic needs? The answer lies in strategy and image. By developing large-scale projects, Hamas seeks to prove that it is not a temporary movement, but a lasting power in Gaza. It wants to control the economy, influence daily life, and create symbols of permanence. These projects are also deeply tied to its political survival. A better-built Gaza means more loyalty from its people and more leverage in negotiations. This transformation raises difficult questions. For Gaza's civilians, it brings both hope and concern. Some see it as progress and stability, while others believe Hamas is using construction to tighten its grip and hide its military assets. For Israel and the region, these developments create new security threats and uncertainties. Hamas is no longer only fighting a war of guns, but also a war of endurance and influence. The world now watches Gaza not just for conflict, but for what is rising within it. What exactly is Hamas building, and at what cost? The answer will reveal far more than politics. It will uncover an engineering and strategic vision on a scale few could have imagined. Let's start with the tunnel city under Gaza. Beneath the crowded streets of Gaza lies a hidden world that few outside have ever truly seen. It is a world of concrete walls, steel reinforcements, and miles upon miles of narrow, dimly lit passageways, a city below the surface. This underground network, built and operated by Hamas, has become one of the most remarkable and controversial engineering feats in modern conflict. The story of this underground city began after Hamas took full control of Gaza in 2007. What started as a few smuggling tunnels under the Egyptian border quickly evolved into a complex network stretching beneath homes, schools, and even hospitals. These tunnels were not simple escape routes. They were designed as strategic arteries for movement, communication, and storage. Hamas leaders saw them as a way to fight back against Israel's superior technology and to keep operations alive, no matter the conditions above ground. The vision was clear: to create an invisible city, a hidden stronghold that would ensure survival and control. Within this subterranean maze were command centers, weapon depots, sleeping quarters, and supply routes. Some tunnels were equipped with electricity, ventilation, and communication lines. According to reports from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, certain sections even had small rooms where fighters could rest or store ammunition safely out of sight. Estimates suggest this massive project cost Hamas over $1 billion to complete over the years. Annual maintenance and new construction alone consume tens of millions of dollars, according to Israeli and international intelligence sources. The financial and technical investment was staggering, especially considering Gaza's economic hardships and international blockade. Cement, steel, and fuel meant for rebuilding civilian homes often ended up reinforcing these underground structures instead. For Hamaas, these tunnels represented freedom and strength, a way to bypass Israel's surveillance and blockades. They enabled surprise attacks, smuggling operations, and fast movement without being detected from the air. For Israel, however, the tunnels symbolized a hidden threat, one that could emerge anywhere at any time. The tunnel city became a new front in the conflict, where technology and human ingenuity collided deep beneath the earth. The project's significance cannot be overstated. It changed the balance of warfare in the region. No longer was Hamas limited to small-scale skirmishes. With these tunnels, they gained mobility, protection, and a psychological edge. Yet this came at a great cost to Gaza's civilians. Critics argued that the billions spent underground could have been used to rebuild destroyed neighborhoods, schools, and hospitals. Instead, much of Gaza's cement was poured into walls that no child would ever call home. International observers also raised serious legal and moral questions. Many tunnels were discovered running beneath residential areas or near civilian shelters. This blending of military infrastructure with civilian life drew sharp criticism and increased the suffering of ordinary Gazans when retaliatory strikes came. Still, the engineering behind the tunnel city stunned the world. How could such a vast and advanced system exist beneath one of the most heavily monitored regions on Earth? The answer lies in Hamas's persistence and the determination to maintain control, no matter the odds. And if you thought one tunnel network was shocking, wait until you see what Hamas built at the Egyptian border, something that surprised the world. The gate at the Egyptian border, at the Salah al-Din gate, along the Egypt-Gaza border near Rafah, Hamas was quietly constructing what would become one of its most profitable and strategically vital projects, a billion-dollar gateway of trade, taxes, and power. Known informally as the Billion-Dollar Gate, this border complex became Hamas's lifeline. Over 5 years leading up to 2023, vast amounts of goods began flowing into Gaza through this corridor, not just humanitarian supplies, but fuel, cement, steel, and even electronics. According to investigative reports from Shomrim, this gate became the main route through which Hamas not only sustained its control over Gaza, but also strengthened its military capabilities in the shadows. The idea behind the Salah al-Din gate was simple yet powerful. If international blockades were cutting Gaza off from the world, Hamas would build its own channel to survive and profit. Every truck that crossed through the border brought with it opportunity and income. Hamas imposed heavy taxes and fees on these goods, generating nearly $1 billion in revenue over a few years. This money, in turn, fueled construction projects, expanded the tunnel network, and financed the production of weapons. What made the situation more remarkable was that much of it happened in the open. Shipments of fuel and materials passed daily under the watchful eyes of Egyptian and Israeli authorities. Yet the sheer scale of movement and complexity made it difficult to fully control. By controlling this gate, Hamas created a parallel economy, one that relied less on foreign aid and more on direct taxation and smuggling. The Salah al-Din gate was more than just a physical crossing. It was an economic engine and a political statement. It demonstrated that Hamas could operate independently, manage trade, and keep its governance alive despite years of isolation. This strategic project transformed the group's position from a struggling political faction into a self-sustaining authority with access to immense resources. For Gaza's people, however, this border economy had a double edge. On one side, it brought goods that kept life moving, fuel for generators, cement for repairs, and materials for local businesses. On the other, it deepened Hamas's control over every aspect of life. Ordinary merchants and citizens had to pay taxes and fees to the group, often at inflated rates. Critics argued that instead of benefiting civilians, most of the income was funneled into military projects, further militarizing Gaza's economy. Egypt and Israel both viewed the gate with suspicion. For them, it represented a dangerous loophole in the blockade system. Reports suggested that alongside commercial goods, weapons, explosives, and advanced materials were smuggled through the same routes. Egypt, in particular, grew wary of Hamas's growing independence and influence on its border, fearing potential spillover into the Sinai region. The Salah al-Din Gate became a symbol of contradiction, a place where commerce and conflict met. It was both a gateway of survival and a channel of power, proving how deeply Hamas had embedded itself in the economic life of Gaza. Even under siege, the group managed to create an infrastructure that combined business, politics, and warfare in one complex network. The most shocking part was not just the scale of operations, but the openness with which it all unfolded. Thousands of trucks entered Gaza through this gate every month, and while the world discussed humanitarian aid, Hamaas quietly turned trade into an empire, from hidden tunnels and border smuggling to what might seem like the oddest of mega projects, Hamas building leisure parks in Gaza. Yes, you heard that right. And the next, we will show why this is more than just a park. Leisure and tourism mega resorts in Gaza. In a place long associated with airstrikes, rubble, and economic despair, few could have imagined seeing palm trees, swimming pools, and roller coasters. Yet in the heart of Gaza, Hamas has built something that seems almost unreal. Grand leisure resorts designed to look like a slice of paradise in the middle of a war zone. These projects, including the Bisan City Tourist Village and the Crazy Water Park, shocked the world for what they represented, a bold attempt to redefine Gaza's image under Hamas rule. The Bisan City Tourist Village stands as one of the most surprising examples. Spread across 277 dunams of land, this vast leisure complex was developed under the supervision of Hamas's then Interior Minister, Fathi Hamad. The project, which cost around $1.5 million, transformed what was once a dumping ground into a sprawling park filled with gardens, playgrounds, and cafes. For Hamas, it was more than just an amusement area. It was a statement of governance, a showcase that said, "We can build, not just fight." Not far behind was the Crazy Water Park, opened in 2010 with a cost of nearly $2 million. With water slides, restaurants, and entertainment areas, it became a symbol of Hamas's desire to show normalcy and progress to the local population. Both parks were heavily promoted by Gaza's Hamas-run government as evidence that life could still flourish under its administration. The aim behind these projects was strategic. Hamas leaders understood that military control alone could not secure their grip over Gaza. They needed to appear as capable governors who cared about civilian life. By building parks, resorts, and recreational spaces, Hamas hoped to win local hearts, project stability, and attract internal support. It was a way of saying, "We are not just a resistance movement, we are your government." But behind the laughter and the splashing water, many saw deeper motives. Some analysts suggested that these leisure projects were funded partly through revenues from the Salah al-Din Gate border trade and tunnel operations. The parks, in this sense, became symbols of Hamas's growing economic network, blending money from taxes, smuggling, and aid into highly visible public projects. The contrast between the park's luxury and Gaza's poverty drew sharp criticism. Many civilians questioned how millions could be spent on leisure when thousands lived in destroyed homes and lacked clean water or electricity. International observers viewed these developments as an attempt to distract from political and humanitarian crises. Some even called the projects propaganda tools designed to polish Hamas's image and strengthen its political base. Despite this, the parks did succeed in drawing visitors. Families, tired of years of conflict, found temporary relief in these spaces. Children could laugh freely, if only for a few hours, away from the chaos that surrounded them. For many, it was a strange mixture of joy and guilt, enjoying luxury amid destruction. Still, The message Hamas sent was clear. It wanted the world, and especially Gaza's residents, to see that it could build large-scale civil projects, even under siege. To its supporters, it was proof of endurance. To its critics, it was proof of misplaced priorities. But Hamas's ambitions don't stop at parks. Next, tell you about a full-scale housing city project funded by an international patron, and what that tells us about Hamas's global strategy. Hamad City in Gaza. Rising from the rubble of southern Gaza, the Hamad City housing complex stands as one of the most ambitious and surprising construction projects in the territory's history. Built in partnership between Hamas's governing ministries and Qatar, this $150 million project looks more like a scene from a modern Middle Eastern suburb than a war-torn enclave. It is a city within a city, complete with paved streets, schools, and high-rise apartments. The origins of Hamad City trace back to 2012, when the Emir of Qatar made a landmark visit to Gaza. It was a moment charged with symbolism. Qatar, one of Hamas's closest political and financial allies, promised to help rebuild the devastated strip after years of conflict. Soon after the visit, construction began under the supervision of the Qatari Committee for the Reconstruction of Gaza, working in coordination with the Hamas-run Ministry of Public Works and Housing. The vision behind Hamad City was both humanitarian and political. Officially, it was meant to provide decent housing for middle and lower-income Palestinian families displaced by war or living in overcrowded conditions. On a deeper level, it was also a powerful symbol of resistance and self-sufficiency. For Hamas, completing such a project under siege conditions sent a clear message: we can govern, we can build, and we are here to stay. Spread over land that once housed Israeli settlements, Hamad City was planned as a full-fledged urban community. It includes more than 2,500 housing units, schools, mosques, parks, and commercial spaces. For many Gazans, it offered a glimpse of normalcy, something that felt almost impossible amid the destruction that surrounded them. To families who moved there, it was a rare chance to start over in a place that actually looked like a functioning neighborhood. The project's funding came entirely from Qatar, which poured in around $150 million. Engineers and contractors coordinated with both Qatari and Palestinian officials to ensure steady progress, even amid political tensions and periodic blockades. The construction itself was impressive given Gaza's restrictions on materials and movement. Trucks carrying cement and steel were closely monitored, and yet, somehow, the project was completed and officially inaugurated within a few years. For Hamas, Hamad City served multiple purposes. It strengthened their ties with Qatar, one of the few Arab nations openly supportive of them. It boosted Hamas's image at home, showing residents that the government could deliver more than rhetoric and resistance. It also allowed Hamas to claim legitimacy on the global stage, portraying itself as a governing body capable of managing complex civil projects. However, not everyone saw Hamad City in such glowing terms. Critics pointed out the irony of spending millions on a new housing complex while much of Gaza's older neighborhoods remained in ruins. Some questioned whether all the funds went where they were supposed to. Reports circulated suggesting that portions of the aid money could have been redirected to Hamas's military infrastructure, though these claims remain disputed. Others raised concerns about the city's exclusivity, that it primarily benefited those close to Hamas or the middle class, leaving the poorest Gazans behind. Still, even critics could not deny that Hamad City marked a turning point in Gaza's landscape. It demonstrated that Hamas had moved beyond purely military operations toward governing functions, blending politics, construction, and international diplomacy in one project. The city became a visible reminder that even in one of the most restricted territories on Earth, vast development could still happen, if the right alliances were in place. And now, the next one will blow your mind. A tunnel so big you could drive a vehicle through it, an underground city built by Hamas. Cross-border attack tunnel cities. If Gaza's tunnels beneath neighborhoods were an engineering marvel, the ones stretching toward Israel were something far more alarming. Underground cities built for war. Deep under the northern Gaza border, near the Erez crossing, Israel uncovered a tunnel so vast and complex that officials called it a terrorist city underground. What they found inside revealed just how far Hamas had taken its underground warfare strategy. This was not a narrow escape tunnel dug in secrecy by a few militants. It was a fully developed underground infrastructure, wide enough for vehicles to pass through and long enough to stretch more than 4 kilometers toward Israeli territory. Built with concrete walls, lighting systems, electricity, and even ventilation, the tunnel showed the precision and resources Hamas was willing to invest. It was, in every sense, a hidden city beneath the earth, one designed to connect command centers, move fighters, and launch large-scale surprise attacks. The project was reportedly led by Mohammed Sinwar, the brother of Hamas's leader Yahya Sinwar, who has long been considered the architect behind many of Hamas's military operations. Under his direction, Hamas engineers and fighters spent years expanding this network, reinforcing it with steel and concrete, and ensuring it could withstand bombings from above. Reports from the Times of Israel and Times of Malta describe the tunnel as one of the largest and most advanced ever discovered, a chilling demonstration of how sophisticated Hamas's underground operations had become. The purpose behind these massive tunnels was clear: to enable infiltration deep into Israeli territory. They were designed to allow large numbers of fighters, and even vehicles, to emerge directly behind enemy lines during coordinated attacks. These tunnels also served as command and communication centers, complete with rooms for storing weapons, food, and fuel. The design reflected long-term planning, a shift from short-term defense to long-term offensive strategy. Each of these cross-border tunnels cost millions of dollars to construct. Materials like concrete, fuel, and steel, which were often scarce due to the blockade, were redirected from civilian projects to tunnel construction. Engineers used reinforced walls, internal rail systems for moving supplies, and complex ventilation setups to ensure survival underground. The project's scale was staggering for a territory already struggling with shortages and destruction. To Hamas, these tunnels were symbols of strength and strategic innovation. They offered a way to bypass Israel's technological dominance and border defenses. To Israel and much of the world, however, they were a grave threat, an invisible army moving beneath the ground, ready to strike at any moment. Israeli military officials described the network as a direct security danger, capable of supporting attacks that could lead to mass casualties. The civilian cost, however, was heavy. Many of these tunnels were built directly under homes, schools, and hospitals, making them difficult to target without risking civilian lives. Critics accused Hamas of using civilians as shields, embedding its military infrastructure within populated areas. Meanwhile, Gaza's reconstruction efforts suffered as money and materials meant for rebuilding houses and hospitals disappeared into the ground. International observers were shocked by the sophistication and scale of the network. For a territory under siege and suffering widespread poverty, building something of this magnitude seemed almost impossible, and yet Hamas had done it. What was once dismissed as guerrilla tactics had evolved into organized, large-scale military engineering. These tunnel cities changed the balance of warfare in the region. They revealed Hamas's readiness for long-term conflict and its growing technical capacity. But they also deepened Gaza's humanitarian crisis, raising painful questions about priorities and sacrifice. Still, even as the world condemned these tunnels, Hamas continued building, both underground and above ground, and their next move would again catch everyone by surprise. What do you think about Hamas's underground mega projects and their growing ambition to build even under siege? Share your thoughts in the comments.